Yes, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show is created to discuss life topics to challenge and transform your thinking. So today I am very excited because I have Ryan Miller here, and he helps high performing business leaders align all areas of life to find fulfillment and freedom while achieving more than they thought possible. There was a tragedy that happened in his life that really transformed the way he saw the purpose of his life and business. And Ryan is really excited about his Be Authentic community. And it is a movement calling others to live with purpose, passion, and transparency while pursuing the greatness that they have been created for. And that's why he is here, because I'm going to dig into the brain and try to pull some stuff out. I know you're a busy man, but I really appreciate your time here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Nina. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Super fun to be able to chat, and I appreciate the big mouthful that you shared to start. It's a good way to get going.
That's right. But I really would like people to know a little bit more about you because I found you through LinkedIn, and I'm not too sure how I found you, but somebody must have connected somehow, some way, and you were sharing some really great, thought-provoking comments on LinkedIn, and I really, really resonated with me. So that's why I started following you there. And I like straight shooters, and you are one of those. So I really appreciate that the most. I'm a very raw, straight shooting type of person. So I really just wanted you to start us off just by letting us know a little bit more about you, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, the kind of 30,000 foot overview is I started my business in 2011, coaching, consulting, and training, particularly in the sales arena, because I had spent about 15 years there previously. That was a bumpy ride to get going, as anybody knows that starts a business as an entrepreneur, and hit a pretty good groove in 2014, which ended up leading to me getting hired on full time by one of my clients. While my business was doing great, that was just a good move for my family from a stability perspective. And they had some pretty crazy goals that I kind of felt like I wanted to be a part of. Joined that organization in 2015, and I thought that was going to be about a 7 to 10 year run. My goal was to exit the organization at the same time the managing partner did. That was his kind of timeline, and so I thought that was going to be it. Little did I know that God had other plans for me there. So we experienced some challenge at the end of 2016, turning into 2017, just internally as an organization. We went from a regional firm to a national firm. And so there was just bumps there that were a little bit difficult at times, but they were stomachable. And then, as you alluded to, in October of 2017, my wife and I and 5 of our friends were in the crowd in Las Vegas when the mass shooting took place. And one of our friends that I was standing shoulder to shoulder with that night was one of the 58 that was killed. And so obviously a very devastating moment, a lot of challenge to go through. And about 2 weeks later, I went back to work. They were very gracious with my time. And I remember sitting in my office in Newport Beach and looking out the window, beautiful day, floor to ceiling window. And I said, what in the hell are you doing with your life? And it was crazy because I knew what I was doing. I was habitual, disciplined, successful, making good money, happy family, everything. But 7 months of asking that question over and over again of my executive coach, my wife, friends, other people around. And I just realized that I wasn't doing what I had called to be, what I was called to. And so I resigned my job in 2018, in May of 2018, went back to work full-time coaching, consulting, and through another just really, really powerful journey, I've come to this place where I am coaching executive leaders in the areas of performance, leadership development, entrepreneurs doing a lot of the same things, salespeople helping them to generate revenue and achieve their goals. But in the midst of all of that, what I've realized and what I'm helping them most with is identifying who they really are and leveraging that characteristic to ultimately achieve the life they want to live, which I've defined as freedom. To do what we want, when we want, with who we want. And so it's just been an exciting opportunity for me, and I absolutely love what I do.
Isn't that something? I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Thank you.
It is very powerful when something is so close to home, right? It shakes you. It shakes you. So since then, you started to do this high performance, coaching for business leaders, and was it like something that you had to do first? Like, did you have to dig deep first, like a self-help, like do some self-care too? Because I'm assuming that not only did that shake you to think of like what you were doing career-wise, but I'm sure it probably gave you like a scope of what you had to look life like, right? Because tomorrow's not promised.
Yeah. So, when I mean, all throughout my career, right? Like, you are continuing to learn and grow and develop yourself. And just thank God got into sales in the late 90s. I was pretty good at it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I found my groove there. Eventually I found my way through success as an entrepreneur. And so I was using all of my business experience and just people experience to help other people. But as that was all happening, and then obviously when the tragedy happened in 2017, it was a different type of awakening. I alluded to
Mm-hmm.
the fact, faith in God is the most important thing to me. I actually was a pastor of a church for 8 years up until
Wow.
just November of 2020. I decided to finally take a step down, and I've had a lot of clarity there. But this
Mm-hmm.
this awakening was like that moment in 2017. It was a trigger, and that trigger, though I had done some of this work in the past, caused me to go all the way back to when I was 6 and my parents got divorced. My dad cheated on my
Oh,
mom,
wow.
left, and we were raised by a single mom that worked 2 and 3 jobs, my younger brother and I. And so just experiences there, and then reconnecting with my dad, and then having another huge blowout and not speaking to my father for 10 years, from 21 to 31, and what that did to me. And so I learned a lot more about identity crisis and
Mm.
this desire to live up to other people's standards, good or bad. And then something that I've been spending a lot of time in lately is this brokenness that we as men face, which is, on one side, and this is going to ruffle feathers, but it just is what it is. On one side, it's, we have to be these tough guys, all the strength in the world. We're bumping chests.
Mhm.
We talk about hot chicks, badmouth our significant other. So that's like one extreme. The other extreme has almost become uh, uh, um, uh, this loose definition of whatever you want it to be. And so people are exploring all these different definitions of manhood and masculinity. And I'm not there either. But in the middle somewhere is this clarity around who we are as men. And so as I have gone on my journey to continue to lean into that, tapping into the strength as a protector, a provider, and a leader, but also into the brokenness, the emotion, and the
Mhm.
need to be loved, not just by my spouse, but by other men too, has really helped give me clarity to then go and serve this community of people, executive leaders, entrepreneurs. So again, we're tapping into those things, but only to help them become better. Like
Right.
we cannot become the best us until we know who we are. And so that's just one thing that I've really come to realize, and I'm really leaning into hard now.
Wow, that's really powerful. Do you believe that your faith in God and that has played a big part in helping people pull out the best of them, all these leaders that you're dealing with? I mean, I'm not saying that you're going in there and running a sermon, right? But
Yeah,
what I'm
right,
saying
right.
is what I'm saying is do you feel like um having that faith, has that given you the clarity that you need to see the leader in others? Do you feel like that's
Yeah,
helped?
yeah, no, I mean that's a fantastic question. So yeah, I mean I serve people that are, Bible believing, church going Christians, and I serve people that are atheists and
Right.
completely deny God. And to both, I serve them equally, so long as the one qualification of working with me and getting anything out of it is at least having this foundational belief that we were put here for a purpose. And
Okay.
so once we can start there, because if we don't have purpose, then everything that we do is just kind of based
Mm-hmm.
on want and need and not with deep intention. So my faith in
That's
God
good.
causes me to believe that I'm here for a purpose. And therefore, once I can gain clarity around that purpose, I can almost live in reckless pursuit of it, not irresponsibly, but it's like if God's creating me to coach people, And that means he's going to bring the right people to me.
Mm-hmm,
He is
mm-hmm,
going to, in one way or another, create the right opportunity for me to serve them well. So that's what I have found. And so again, to other people, again, I say, like, we don't have to agree on where we came from, but so long
that's
as we
right.
can agree in purpose, then I can help you. I'm not going to tell you what your purpose is. I'm going to help bring out of you what you believe your purpose to
Mm-hmm.
be, and then lead you towards the ultimate version and vision of that.
That's awesome. That's really good. And
Thank you.
that says a lot, right? Because I think that people do get a little bit hung up on, oh, he was a pastor or whatever. I'm not saying that people do, but they can, if especially if they're atheist or anything like that. So it's good that you're serving them at the same level no matter what, as long as they have they know that there's a purpose for their life and something that you're trying to pull out, right? Because
Yep.
otherwise, I mean, it's going to be impossible for you to coach. Impossible, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah, because then all I'm doing is then I am just giving them a whole list of to-dos,
right.
and unfortunately, and I don't like to badmouth other people or things too often, but the world of coaching and motivational speaking and all those types of things,
Hmm.
the primary message out there today, and most of the self-help books that are out there, is you see where I am, so do what I have done, and you
Hmm.
can get here too.
Hmm.
And I understand a lot of people's heart behind that. But the biggest challenge and the greatest sense of brokenness in that is we're not alike. Like, we may have similar
That's
interests
right.
and desires and strengths, but there is nobody in the world that is like you, and nobody
That's
in the
right.
world that is like me. And so, how can you tell me that if I just follow your path, I'll get there too? I mean,
Right.
talking about, the my faith in God, and a lot of people will say, Jesus is the example of, how to live your life. And I would say that's absolutely not true. Like, he would be the worst example ever, not because he is not perfect, but because I am not, and I can't live that way.
That's
So I
true.
need to find me and seek to do the best I can there. And so
That's
that's what I'm
good.
trying to overcome is, don't be me. Nobody wants to be me. I could tell you of the ways I almost screwed up my marriage, and I have destroyed money in my life and so many other things. And I'm still far from where I want to be. It's like, good Lord, just find you and let's help you be the best.
Right. Wow, that's so good. What do you think is a necessary personality trait that every leader should have? What do you think is something that you look for in a leader?
Gosh. So I like to rob from a lot of other people or borrow
Yeah,
their
go right
words.
ahead.
So I am a huge fan of Patrick Lencioni. And so he talks about these three words, which are hungry, humble, and smart. And so
Mm,
I believe that that is the characteristic of any person that strives to be anything great. So leader, follower, whatever. And so just to quickly define those or articulate that. So he defines hungry as somebody that is deeply desiring and chasing after the things that they want and the things that they need to achieve what's in front of them. So that's the hungry. Humble, obviously a humble character, but the humility to say I don't have it all together. I never
mm,
have it all figured out, and I need to be poured into. And then the smart one, everybody goes to IQ, which is not defining of success, but EQ, which we've talked about a lot, especially over the last couple of years, but it's got a bad like identity too, because people think that they're self-aware and socially aware, but they're not. And so that's the other one that's
right.
really important. So those three characteristics I think are significantly important for
Oh,
somebody
that's
to
so
be a
good.
great leader.
Do you have so, like habits, things that you like to do or things that you feel have driven you to be successful in what you're doing now? Do you have like
Yeah.
things that you have to do and get done for you to be Ryan Miller?
Yeah. So at the end of 2019, that was, I don't know, year 15 or something like that, of setting goals, achieving goals, missing goals. And I started to feel, and it's going to sound funny coming from a coach, but I started to feel this sense of brokenness with setting
Mm,
goals and pursuing them, because it was almost as if they were just temporary. They were fleeting.
mm,
It was, I achieve a goal, woo woo, let me set another one and go back after it. Or I set a goal, miss it. I either condemn myself or I'm just like, whatever, I'll do another one. So I decided that instead of pursuing goals, I was going to gain more clarity on who I was, and I was going to pursue the best version of that person. So,
That's
in the
good.
character of a Christian, a husband, a father, a friend, at that time, a pastor. And then I was going to create habits from there. So, this is why this gets to your question. So, I decided to start pursuing and leaning into the habits that I believed reflected the best version of that person. So,
Oh, that's
one
good.
habit that's super duper important. If I'm going to be the best husband I can possibly be to my amazing wife of almost 20 years, I must date my wife. And so a habit is that I'm dating my wife at least once a month. So in addition to going out with friends, spending time as a family, it's I date my wife. As a business leader, you would think that, habits were around like selling and I do those types of things, but for me the most important thing is to continue to create content that comes from my heart that's going to enable people to be the people that I want them to be. So that's a habit, is I'm consistently creating content to do that. I work out. So I work out 6 days a week. I love CrossFit. That's just kind of my thing, but I don't do that for a metric necessarily, as much as I believe that that is the habit of somebody that takes care of their body and wants to live a long and fruitful life for their family and their friends. So those are the types of habits I focus on, because
Mm.
those things are going to produce, hopefully, a better Ryan tomorrow and then 20 years from now.
That is so good. Is that something that, I mean, you said it's been a few years now. Were you
Mhm.
able to also keep that momentum while you were a pastor before you left? Because that's a tough job. Being a pastor is a tough job. I tell my pastor that all the time. I'm like, I'm glad you're the pastor and I'm not, because I couldn't do it. It's a tough job.
Yes. So, it's about, keeping my focus narrow. So that doesn't mean I don't get into the
I
busyness.
like
And
that.
even now, again, still, even without that, it's still, I have responsibilities at home, responsibilities at work, in the community, wherever. And so I have to make sure that my habits are clear, they're simple, and they're purposeful,
That's
so I
good.
don't get distracted. And that doesn't mean, like, one habit that I try to stick to is so I try to get 8 hours of sleep every single night. And when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do, if I'm going to pick up my phone, that it's going to be to open my Bible app and read something from scripture to get my day going well. That's a habit. I get distracted regularly because as soon as I pick it up, right, I'm like, oh, what does Instagram say, or something like
Right,
that.
right.
So it's not that they're I'm not getting derailed from time to time, but it just goes back again to purpose and intention. It's like, why am I doing this? And ultimately, what am I trying to accomplish as the result of that? Like, I'm not reading my Bible to be a good Christian. I'm
Right.
reading my Bible because I believe it's necessary for me personally to live the best life I can and to overcome whatever is going to be thrown at my feet that day.
Right. Was that hard for you leaving in November? Was it hard to transition into who you are now? I mean, right? That has to
Yes.
be a challenge, because you said you were doing it for about 8 years.
Yeah, so two other guys and we planted the church. So started the church from nothing back in 2012, in August of 2012. And anybody that's planted a church knows it's a difficult challenge.
Yes, it
There's a
is.
lot that goes into it, and so lots of bumps and bruises along the way. But faithfully just continued to serve, and then just a combination of just a lot of bumps and bruises that were
Yeah.
happening, and then combined with this last season of life for us all, with the pandemic, with a lot of just issues around racial inequality, politics. They were definitely taking their
Hmm.
toll on
Hmm.
all of us. And so for me, as somebody that is very outspoken, I like to be right at the edge, and still try and be as considerate as other people as possible. I just started to feel like I was losing my ability to fight the fight, and I felt that it was just time for me to take a step back. And so I
Hmm.
actually intended to take a sabbatical over the summer for 3 months. And about halfway through, my wife and I were talking one day. We were attending another church just to kind of rest and hang out, and I said, man, I'm feeling more freedom to worship God than I have in so long. And it wasn't because
Wow,
I was in
that's
a bad
powerful.
place. It
That's
was just,
powerful.
I was just, I was bearing a burden. And so we prayed about it. We talked about it for another month and a half. And so then finally in November, under the counsel again of my wife, but then a couple of other guys that I've walked through this entire 8 years with, we just felt like it was time. So I deeply, deeply miss, that role of pastoring people, caring for people, and preaching the word on a regular basis. I love to do that. But again, this goes back to, if I really feel that this is what God has called me to
Mm-hmm.
do, then I have
Mm-hmm.
to accept the fact that maybe this is forever and I'm called into something else, or maybe this is a season and some other opportunity will present itself later. And as soon as I let go of that, by December-ish, something just lifted off of me. And like right now, I mean, we're speaking in the middle of March and I am at an all-time high, like my personal life, my professional life, spiritually. I feel like I am just floating. And so I don't
That's
know if,
so good.
that's all the culmination of that or what, but it's a great place to be.
Yeah, no, that's good, right? Because sometimes your identity gets locked up a lot
Mm,
in what you're doing, right? And
yes.
especially as a pastor, because your identity has to be on all the time. I mean, you're serving a community of people all the
Mhm.
time, right? So that's tough. I'm so glad that you feel that shift with God and that it's lifted off of you. That's powerful, right? Because it
Thank
makes
you.
you realize that your identity is with God and not with the role, right?
Yes. Yes. Very well said.
So,
Yes.
so good. How do you, trying to keep yourself, going and steady and positive and all that? How does Ryan get through the tough times? How do you get through tough times when they start hitting you? Because
Yeah.
you're on an
So,
all-time high now, right? But we're not always there.
oh, no, 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 no. Yeah. So, I think one of the things is, again, relying on the reality of what my faith means. So it's
Oh, that's
not,
good. Hmm.
um, so interestingly, I don't want to get too much into this, but, you would think that, so 2017 and that loss, and that was the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. But
Hmm.
that was actually teed up a year earlier. So in October of 2016, and when I was working for the company my counterpart, I led sales, she led client service. At 30 years old, one of the most successful, promising young women I've ever been around, she committed suicide. And that ruined me. And it
Yeah.
wasn't that we were personally that close. We'd worked together for about a year and a half. She was a sweet woman. We did get along and we worked hard together, but it was more of just watching somebody struggle the way that they did and crying out to God and her problem not being resolved. She was struggling with some mental illness and eventually just felt like, that was the road for her. And so that wrecked me. Like I was
Yeah.
angry with God. I was questioning him. And so then a
Hmm.
year
Hmm.
later, when our tragedy happened to us personally, it was devastating. And definitely the loss of one of our best friends was
Right.
way more deep, but the road had been paved, and it was like God had
Mm.
prepared me. And so, business is the same way. I mean, I lost everything in
Hmm.
2013. Our house, um, we had like adult toys repossessed. We were down to $500 in our checking account and had to move into a rental across the street and just pray to God that we could get through the next day. And so I've been there. At the beginning of the pandemic, I lost 5 figures a month in recurring revenue in
Oof.
March of 2020 because two of my clients in Orange County, California closed their doors. So this isn't my first rodeo. And that doesn't
Right.
mean when the next one
Right.
comes, which I pray that it's never as bad as October 2017, but when it comes, I'm prepared for whatever is there. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to crawl into a corner and have anxiety attacks, I'm sure at times. And I'm not going to love what's going on, but I trust in the fact that God will lead me through that. So that's number one. And then number two behind that is it's a deep seated belief in what I'm doing. And so,
Yeah.
I'm not coaching because I can make a lot of money. Because as a matter of fact, there are a lot of tricks to the trade that I could make a lot more money doing what I do, but I can't do what I don't deeply believe in.
That's
So
good.
that fuels me to get out of bed. That fuels me to
Hmm.
go. It's just
Hmm.
this belief. Like a client earlier today, he just said something to me that was so profound in something that I had done to help him, and it was like that's it. Like those are the moments for me. I want millions of those moments, but those are the moments for me that I'm like, this is exactly what I need to be doing, and I will fight through anything to make sure that I can keep going.
Right. So is it that tenacity in you that you feel, contributes to your success, right? I think that sometimes when we get beat up a lot, right? Or we have all of these hard challenges, you said it, beautifully, right? That now you feel like you're ready, like you're more prepared for the next hit, right?
Mm.
Not that we want to keep getting hit, right?
No more.
Nobody wants to keep,
No more.
Lord, nobody wants to keep getting hit, but it, life is like that, right? I mean, it does
Yes.
come, but it does make you stronger. That must be so helpful for you going through that, because now you can speak into the lives of people who are going through that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially your high performing business leaders, because they're going through that too, or have gone through that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're always the most susceptible when we're at our peak. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when we're there and we're sometimes blind to these little things that could derail us significantly. And so those are the times when I'm really trying to lean into people the most, and they'll say to me, "Well, I don't really have any problems. Things are pretty good." And I'm like, "That's fine. This is not about problems. This is
Right.
about creating this like almost like bulletproof system. So
Right.
when the problem comes, which it's coming, you're prepared and you've got an army of people around you. Like I talk a lot about community. It's about building relationships with people who are around you that are going to walk through these things with you. Like the
So
worst
good.
thing that happens is being on an island. Again, pandemic. Like people have stepped through some of the hardest times of their lives by themselves, and it's like
That's true.
this is like the worst like storm all coming together. So just trying to create that community around myself. I need it. I cannot do this by myself. My wife, I mean, we almost got divorced just after our 5-year anniversary. And now we'll be celebrating 20 years of
That's
marriage in another
fantastic.
week. And like without her, without my kids standing by my side, business colleagues, friends, I mean, like I need it. I absolutely need these people.
Yeah, I think we all do, right? Our community is super important, super important. And I mean, now we're doing it this way, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have met you otherwise, but I've been following you, and like I said, I've been reading your posts and stuff, because you say very deep things and thought-provoking things, and then they make you like stop for a second and be like, "Whoa, that was really good," you know?
Mm.
So but I wouldn't have known that had I not been connected to you, to you through LinkedIn and so on. And I do listen to your podcast as well, by the way, which is very
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Yes, very, very good. So before I let you go, I would really like to ask you, if I was talking to someone, I'll just use this as a little example, who is completely stuck, right? Do you have like one or two things that you recommend to people who, just to start, that you feel like they need to just get a little unstuck so they can get forward, they can move
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. So I always say I feel like just the biggest broken record, but it's who do you really see yourself to be?
That's good.
So I call this foundation, or it's our purpose, our passion, and our principles. And and when we work for companies, we go through mission, vision, and values exercises all the time, but we don't do that as an individual. So when you feel like you don't know where to go,
That's
a
good.
lot of times like lack of self-worth kicks into all that. Like all these things happen. What I would always say is go back to that. Like what do you believe you're here for? And if you can't answer that question, because sometimes that's a really hard question to ask when you're in a bad place, but
Hmm.
what are you passionate about? What does get you excited? What principles are you willing to stand for and die, and die for? That is the beginning of what I believe is a road back,
So
not
good.
necessarily to abundance or, millions of dollars. Like maybe that is, but I believe that again, that is the freedom we're all after is I
Hmm.
just want
Hmm.
to be me. That's
Hmm.
it. And if I can really do that, and I believe that people are accepting me for me, obviously being aware of the fact that if I've got problems, I need to fix them. But that's what we all want. And so start
So good.
there.
Thank you. That was awesome. And I'll make sure to keep replaying that, because that's really, really good. So before I let you go, can you please tell my viewers, my community, how we can support you and find you and all of that, please?
Yeah. So, I mean, I said it right. I'm all about community. I want to continue to just have this message of authenticity rippling as far as the world will allow it to
So
go.
good.
So you can follow me on LinkedIn, Ryan James Miller. Instagram is at RJM Sales Pro. Those are the two
Okay.
places that I spend the most time from a content perspective. And if you go to either one of those, you can go to my website too, ryanjamesmiller.com. But if you go to any one of those, you will find me. And then I guess the last thing is I've been having a really great time building community through text. And so if you're interested in hearing more, it's not spammy, just encouraging word around authenticity, you can text the letters BA to 714-202-9402. And we're just building a community of people that's just there to support and encourage each other. And sometimes just having a little note on the phone every single day feels really, really good.
Yeah, I know. I saw that and I'm like, oh, I could sign up, but I wasn't sure if that was like your personal number. And I'm like, let me wait.
No, no, no,
That's
no. So
fantastic.
yeah, so you'll, if you opt in that way, you're going to get an automated message that just says, "Are you sure
Great.
you want to do this?" And then after the automation, every single text is from me. I reply to everybody. Like again,
Oh
it's
my
about
gosh.
community. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot of
a
fun.
little busy, a little busy. And thank you for sharing all of your wisdom. You have an abundance of wisdom. So
Mm,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you,
And
Neena.
guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this is Neena Perez and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that little bell notification so you don't miss a video. Until next time.